swear these other podcasts are just a waste of time. I'm skipping through them, I'd rather listen and change my mind. Wes and Nick always help me through my daily grind. Your favorite guys, your favorite lines, change my mind. I swear these other podcasts are just a waste of time. I'm skipping through them, I'd rather listen and change my mind. Wes and Nick always help me through my daily grind. Your favorite guys, your favorite lines, change my mind. Yeah.
Nick, what's the longest hangover you ever had?
I can't. I mean, like, can hangovers last past a day? Is that a thing?
Oh yeah. Oh, so
I've never had that happen.
I don't think you're at the age where 2-day hangovers become a real thing.
2-day hangovers?
2-day hangovers are a very real thing.
Oh, that sounds miserable.
I think I'm on like a 3-day hangover starting from Friday. Yeah.
3 days, Wes?
Well, because like I had my bachelor party, as you know. I'm about to have get married in September.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And went out to New York City, visit some old college friends. And Friday night, you inevitably go hard on the first night.
Right.
Even if you tell yourself that you're going to take it easy and that it's a marathon and it's not a sprint, because I said those exact same words. And then you're out to like 4 a.m.
It's a little on the nose for you, Wes.
Which is a beautiful, beautiful thing about New York. The 4 a.m., not being able to, get kicked out at midnight or 12:20 or whatever it is. It's really a beautiful thing. But Tuesdays made it, what day? Saturday? Saturday made it very rough. See, like, I can't even put sentences together. Like, my mind is so dislodged from the rest of my body right now.
So you went out on Friday, then you had all of Saturday, went out on Saturday, and then you tried to get yourself together on Sunday and came back.
Yeah, came back around 4 or 5 o'clock.
How
Sunday.
many did you bar hop, or did you just kind of camp out at one at each?
We went to a couple bars on Friday night. Went to a Red Sox baseball bar to watch Red Sox Yankees in New York. Has fallen on really tough times since the last time I was there. I just remember that place being packed for every big Red Sox Yankees game, every big
like
Patriots game. No, we were like the only people in there. Like, the place was dilapidated. The roof was like leaking onto a booth next to us.
It was on Saturday or Friday?
That was on Friday. And then we went to another bar for the rest of the night. And then on Saturday, I played a little beer pong in the Airbnb that we had, which inevitably I end up drinking too much in because I just really enjoy that game.
That tends to be how it works.
It sneaks up on you, like I'm not as paying attention there. And then we went to a beer garden. We had a private room, had our own little tap for 2 hours, a little open tap.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Nice. I'm hoping that your groomsman and your the best
bachelor
man,
parties,
they took care of you. I'm hoping.
Well, yeah. I mean, I chipped out. I'm not expecting to have the whole free weekend.
No.
I paid my way.
The whole way?
Yeah, I paid for my room and I paid for my.
All of it?
Yeah, the beer garden.
See,
I got drinks bought for me throughout the course of the night. Didn't really pay for cabs and stuff like that.
Okay, that's different.
But like, I'm not like the stuff that I like wanted us to do. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I'd feel like a jerk if I was like, "Oh, okay, you're paying for this and you're paying for." Well,
that's different when you put it like that, because I'm used to the bachelor parties that I've gone to. It's I wouldn't mind if we did this. I wouldn't mind if we did that. This, that, whatever, and then we go from there. And whatever happens.
Right.
They don't usually just don't pay for anything, but at the same time you also went away, so that went away, but you had to take care of your stay, so I understand that portion of it bit.
So I mean, it definitely came around. I got some food bought for me, a couple of way too many shots.
So that's a little different. Okay, so I can way too many shots.
Yeah, it's and jumping back and forth between Jameson and Fireball.
Oh,
it's like one hits you really hard and it's light in the Jameson, and then the other one is really like thick and like doesn't hit you as hard, but it kind of gets all that sugar on you. And it's hot. Like,
I think I've had Fireball once since I graduated college, and there's a reason for that. It is.
It's like the shot I do when I don't want to do a shot.
Yeah.
Like typically, like all right, I don't want to do one. Just give me a Fireball, throw it back, and it's fine. But when they add up on one another, it's like.
I'm not a big beer guy, but I think I've definitely grown to appreciate it more, and I think that's because there have been times where I've been at places like, in an apartment or whatever, stuff like that.
Well, recording a podcast, maybe.
Yeah, well, no. When I record the podcast, there's plenty of alcohol options.
Yeah.
But other places where the best option for hard stuff is Fireball, and I'm like, Yeah, no, I'm not touching that with the 10-foot pole.
You got to find some classier friends.
Yes, that's or I start bringing
they
my
don't have 6-month-old wine bottles, lying around.
That was me not knowing any better. Yes, that was so frustrating.
I can show you the way, young Padawan.
Well, I think you've shown that when I let you show me the way, I tend to get into trouble.
Well, yeah, that's fun. I'm just unlocking another part. You're leveling up, as they say.
There you go. I appreciate that.
But this is episode 27. 5 minutes into the show, I would say. Change My Mind podcast. So I'm Wesley Sykes. Let me see if I can rattle through this. We got, we have the Jack Kirby to my Stan Lee sitting across from me here, and Nick Fryer.
I'll take that.
That's good, right? That's a pretty good one. It's topical.
I'll take that all day.
Hopefully you're following along on our live stream, 1420 AM, WBSM YouTube page there. In beautiful Fairhaven, Massachusetts. We got Tim Weisberg here, the guy in a chair. Tim, you got your mic on?
He definitely does now.
How you doing?
That's all up to Nick.
Yes.
All I can do is control who's on the screen.
That's right. Well, you can do a whole lot more though. That's not all that.
Oh, I could shut this all down.
Yeah.
This is true.
And
yes.
you can build us up too. You can say you're like our Lord and Savior.
I just realized that Tim has more power than I do when it comes to the tech. It took 27 episodes for me to realize that I really have no power here.
That's it.
No, you're just the monkey pressing the buttons.
Damn it.
Man.
That's what I refer to myself all the time anyway. So I just say I'm just the monkey here to press the buttons.
I had no idea.
Well, that's it. Hopefully it knocks you down a peg or two. You realize it now. And walking around like your ish don't stink.
Show's over, everybody.
That's it.
We will talk to you again never.
Like as they say, sometimes you think you're hot-ish.
Yes.
And other times you're just cold diarrhea,
Cold diarrhea?
Yeah. It's like the opposite.
Yes. I got that.
Right.
Yes. Yeah.
Which is how I feel right now. But we're gonna be fighting through nonetheless here. We're gonna we have a nice I would say a tentpole episode maybe in our catalog.
Yes.
So of course our first episode we've done spoilers versus non-spoilers, or some other debates that we've had in the prior.
We've had a few.
I'm trying to think of some other ones, but this one today is it's going to be comic books versus the comic book movies. Which ones do you prefer? Which one is better? Why does one suck more than the other? If you've been following along on the previous episodes of this podcast, you might know that I don't really read the comics. Nick is, of course, an avid comic book reader and reviewer, geeksworldwide.com. So he'll be presenting that side of the argument. I'm going to be the Dumbo who's just going to say, show me the pictures.
I would say some of the debates we've had, maybe not like this where it's kind of a broader topic, but we debated Parks and Rec characters.
Oh, yeah?
We've debated, we definitely debated when we talked about The Punisher Season 2.
That was a hot contentious debate.
We've had our drafts, the baseball draft, the basketball draft, last episode with the fighting draft, which was exactly everything I hoped it would be.
It was fun. It was fun times.
And then we debated in the course of everything else, too.
Yeah.
But, and of course, the MCU's main protagonist.
Iron Man versus Cap, of course, yeah.
Yes, Cap is the main protagonist of the MCU. That was probably our greatest debate of them all. But anyways, we have news that we want to get into as well first. There's a couple things that we didn't really get to talk about a ton at San Diego Comic-Con, and I think, Wes, you set aside a couple things that we wanted to touch on.
Yeah, so it's essentially The Witcher, Netflix's The Witcher, and HBO's His Dark Materials. And the reason why I'm kind of grouping these together, of course, they were a little bit left over from San Diego Comic-Con. Of course, everything was kind of swept up by Marvel Phase 4. But this is, I think, kind of interesting because these companies trying to cash in on the next big, hopeful Game of Thrones type of appointment television viewing.
Yep. I think, you have to at this point because there is, as much as there's now a thirst for superheroes and everything, there's always been that medieval type fan base. You have the sci-fi too as well.
Like a dystopian type of world.
That too. Yep,
Hunger Games type thing. So that's what kind of like His Dark Materials is, of course, is based off of.
I was going to ask you that.
A best-selling Philip Pullman novels, also by the same name, His Dark Materials. There was a movie, I don't know, mid-2000s or so, Golden Compass, kind of a flop.
Yeah,
but you might recognize from the trailer the giant polar bear with the war
helmet
regalia.
Oh yes,
sure. Yeah, the whole materials, the helmet, all that stuff. Yeah, and this looks pretty good. This looks kind of interesting. I saw the trailer; it had me interested.
See, for some reason, when I haven't seen that trailer yet, but when I saw the Golden Compass trailer way back when, I don't know, for some reason it just didn't hit me. I knew it was a book. I'd heard of it before.
Right.
For some reason, I knew it. I don't know what it's about in general, but I mean, I remember there was Aragon that came out kind of around that time,
Yep.
Artemis Fowl, but I don't think that was anything like the others. I don't remember Artemis Fowl all that well. Did you read any of those books?
No, I didn't.
I read the first Aragon, but I cannot remember much of it. But anyways, the thing that's tough, Wes, is that sometimes with these books, it can be real hit or miss just because, I know you talk about all the time when we talk about Marvel, does it mean something? Well, when there's not something to back it originally, to me, that's kind of my, does it mean something? It's just, if it's just out of thin air or a book that I don't really care about.
Right,
then
yeah.
It's like, well,
Well,
what
I
am
think it
doing?
also falls on the people who are adapting the movie or the book into the movie or television series to kind of take and choose and still have your skeleton of the book of what you're trying to tell, the
Right.
story you're trying to tell, but
Yeah, and-
still kind of taking in your direction too.
And I'm still in that crowd, and I know you are too. If you see a kick-ass trailer, you're going to consider it at least.
Well, yeah, and this is a pretty good cast. It's got James McAvoy. It's got Lin-Manuel Miranda, of course, of Hamilton fame.
Oh.
And tell me if you recognize this name, Miss Daphne Keane.
Really?
Yes. You familiar?
Yes, of course.
X-23.
Yes, of course.
Yeah,
Okay.
the real star of that movie, if you ask me.
Oh, for sure. She stole the show 100%. I mean, when she came out, rolled that head out, and then, oh, man.
Right, she came to play.
She was nuts.
So think like Game of Thrones meets Hunger Games meets The Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe. That's kind of what I had, like, Rich, kind of to surmise it a little bit.
So that's his Dark Materials.
Yes. Then you got The Witcher, of
Okay.
course, starring Henry Cavill.
That trailer I did see.
Yes.
Oh,
Looks
boy.
very buff.
Yeah.
You thought he was buff in Superman. I think he looks very good.
I think he's a little more chiseled, if you can believe that.
Yeah. He says he's in the best shape of his life, which, again, very tough to follow that up. But essentially, Netflix describes this as The Witcher Geralt. A mutated monster hunter struggles to find his place in the world where people often prove more wicked than beasts.
Okay. I mean,
And our guy, Comics Kid, Casey Walsh, editor-in-chief of Geeks Worldwide here, had a tweet recently that says Netflix is already very happy with, I guess, early reviews or early screenings of The Witcher, which is set to come out the end of 2019, and multiple seasons could be greenlit before the end of the first season. So both of these are looking at end of like fall to Christmas time releases.
see, I got to give Netflix credit because once I started watching Titans, which I have not finished the first season yet, I was starting to think, man, this is awesome. You're going to have the Marvel stuff come in. And as much as I love DC, Marvel's stuff is probably going to be better.
Right.
So what is Netflix going to do? They're going to be in a ton of trouble because they had everything and now they're losing things left and right. They bring in The Witcher in, if it's already that, I mean, the trailer, Wes, looks kick-ass, like you said. I mean, I'm all in. I definitely want to watch this.
And then you're also kind of excited. I think like Netflix is going to go heavy on their comedy specials. Like they're already, very successful with
You
that.
like those too.
Yeah, some of them. It depends on the comedian, of course.
Of course.
I also think, you got Big Mouth for a couple more seasons. I think they just got greenlit for 3 more seasons. That's the Nick Kroll hormone monster animated show.
Do you watch that?
Yeah, hilarious.
Really? Okay.
Yes, highly recommend it.
Do you think I will like it though? It's not according. I know it's not according to Jim.
It can be cringeworthy. It's definitely awkward. It's about kids going through puberty in school.
Is it more awkward? I know it's a different type of awkward, but is it more awkward than The Office? Like Michael Scott in The Office?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
But I don't think The Office is that cringeworthy. I mean, he is at times.
Yes, he is.
But yeah,
he definitely is.
But overall, I would say
what's more cringeworthy? Always Sunny or?
It's Always Sunny isn't cringeworthy.
Oh man, the awkward moments and Always Sunny?
No, it's hysterical. I live for those awkward moments more often than not. Like I tend to think in generally speaking terms, I thrive off awkward situations.
You are good in awkward situations.
Just embrace the weird.
Every time I've been around you in an awkward situation, which is most of the time, you do a pretty good job.
Yeah, well, that's probably because it's me putting myself in the awkward situation. Right? There's got to be like a commonality.
Some might say this is just an extended hour of an awkward conversation or situation.
Yeah. I might say that.
Yeah, I think
I might have. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood released this week. I think we're going to be talking about that next week.
Yes, we are.
So this is a quick synopsis of Quentin Tarantino's 9th penultimate film. He's always said he only wants to do 10 films.
Really?
Yes.
He's such a nod duck.
Yeah, well, he's got it together, man. So this is a faded television star and his stunt double strive to achieve fame and success in the film industry during the final years of Hollywood's golden age in 1969 Los Angeles. Of course, starring Leonardo DiCaprio, Brad Pitt, Margot Robbie, Al Pacino, Dakota Fanning, Timothy Olyphant, Maya Hawke, who we saw in Stranger Things Season 3, the daughter of Ethan Hawke, and Luke Perry. Oddly enough, I thought that was a nice
Luke
pull.
Perry, where is he?
Beverly Hills 90210.
Okay, I was going to say 90210. Okay, I can't remember.
Yeah, you recognize the name, right? But yeah, Tim, that might mean something to you, Luke Perry.
Yeah, he just died.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, he died a few months ago.
R.I.P. Luke Perry.
I think he died before the show started, before our show started.
Oh, wow.
Yes. So
we have
before tonight's show started, yeah, but he only died like a month or so ago, 2 months ago maybe.
We might have mentioned it on the show, actually, now that you say that.
You know, but I don't think we gave him his proper due. So at the end of this, maybe we'll say a quick prayer, offer our thoughts up to the Lord and Savior, and send him on his way here.
Okay.
But so that is rocking an 8.7 out of 10 on IMDb. And it entered number 2 during the weekend box office, pulling in $40.3 million. Wasn't released worldwide, just domestically.
Okay. And it's only behind The Lion King.
I was going to say, do you have a guess?
Sorry.
For Lion King, but you're reading along just like I am.
I am, yes.
Another $75.5 million week for Lion King, bringing up his worldwide total to $962.6 million.
I know you don't have it written down here. Did you check what their IMDb score was for
the Lion King? No, but I've heard varying things about it.
Varying, okay. I don't know if I want to see it. I mean, I didn't think I'd want to because it's the same thing. If I want to watch it over again, I'll just watch
the movie.
The
I'll
cartoon.
be interested to see how it turns out. I'm not sure if I'm going to see it in theaters.
Yeah, I think I'll wait. I'm not usually one to wait. I usually just either I'm going to see it in theaters or I'm not going to.
Yeah,
but
I'm like, I don't know.
I am excited for this one though. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I mean,
yes.
Brad Pitt is my dude. I'm not a big Leo guy. I think he's very good. Don't get me wrong, but it's just there's something about him. You know, when I watched The Departed, I rooted for Matt Damon, not Leonardo DiCaprio.
Oh, why?
Yeah. I just didn't.
What a scumbag Matt Damon is in that movie.
You could argue that Leo was the bad guy in that movie, I think.
I mean, they're both very bad people. It's just, to how far off on the spectrum are they?
Yeah, and I think Leo, you could say, is a little bit worse. Well, but that's another story for another day.
But Leo was being a bad person or going undercover as a bad person but he was really a good guy.
I think
it was the exact opposite for Matt Damon. Matt Damon was a snake.
So. I think you're misremembering, Wes.
No, he was.
It's revisionist history.
He was a cop.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, yes. Matt Damon was a cop. He was doing the right thing all the time. He was keeping the peace. He was that fine line between order and chaos.
You're not serious about this. You're just going trying to rile me up right now, right?
Yeah, I was about to Yes,
I'm moving very slow right now.
I know you are. I'm not.
So I was trying to give you the benefit of the doubt, but I was about no.
So, in truth,
you're talking out of your ass right now.
In truth, I did actually, as a kid, like Matt Damon's character more in Jack Nicholson's, but. No, obviously he's the bad guy.
Yeah, obviously he's the bad guy.
There's no question about it. Since seeing Black Mass, though, now I know some people that I don't know if you do, but I know a few people that knew Whitey.
Sure, yeah.
And I've actually heard some good things about him. But I mean, come on,
right. There's a lot less good that he did than
he was
the bad.
Always good to his own, and that's fine, and that whatever. But
would you pay $3.5 million to live in his house?
That's what it's going for, right? Yeah. I don't think so. No,
Tim,
that's ridiculous. It's only valued at $899,000.
Pardon my French, but it's a real piece of crap house.
Right. And I don't even know why it's valued at $899 except for just being a plot of land in Boston.
Right.
Southeast.
Well, Southeast, it's going skyrocket,
yeah,
right?
But still, $3 million, no thanks.
Right. To live in a house where not only 3 people were murdered, but 3 people buried, right? Is that?
In the basement.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not there anymore.
No, obviously. But,
good to know. That's good to know. I wasn't aware of that when I was.
But as a paranormal expert.
Oh. Could you
maybe they still are.
Oh, fair point.
Well, I mean, full disclosure, I have reached out to see if I can get in there, but
nice,
okay.
Doing a little investigative work here. I thought that might get your attention.
That would be fun. I would love to go there for that. But
last thing on the news here.
Whitey
what do we got?
So last thing on the news.
Whitey, good guy, local guy.
Yeah.
Hometown boy makes good.
He was misunderstood. Yeah. So Wonder Woman 84 reportedly did some reshoots. I saw this on comicbook.com. Last week in London, Gal Gadot was there doing it. Chris Pine was doing it. It just looks like it's...
R.I.P. Chris Pine. Right?
R.I.P. Chris Pine. Looks like it was just standard stuff. We're probably going to get a trailer around December-ish.
Okay.
I'd like it sooner, but whatever. That's whatever. My question to you, Wes, is: are you excited for Wonder Woman 84?
So it depends. I think my answer varies on what you may be able to tell me about these reshoots. Are these like Dark Phoenix, New Mutant reshoots, or are these like your typical, okay, we just want to touch up or line up something here, or there's a continuity issue here?
I think the one major thing was they wanted to make sure they could get rid of Gal Gadot's mustache in the course of it all.
Right,
they had to kind of crop that out, so they needed to just reshoot it again.
That could be very problematic, man. You don't come at Gal Gadot like that.
Come on. I've said it on this show. I love Gal Gadot. She is a queen for sure.
She sure is.
Literally, as she plays. Well, she plays a princess, actually. Right. So, but either way, you get my point.
She's Israeli hot.
Yeah, is she?
You hire a French woman, you expect a mustache.
Yeah, she's Israeli.
Yeah, what are you talking about? Did you not hear his joke?
Yeah,
I heard his joke, but isn't she also partially French?
No, she could be.
She could be, but she's from Israel.
I thought she was Israeli.
She was in the military. That's what makes her one of the best, if not the best.
Does she shave her armpits?
I would imagine so. She wears a lot of strapless shirts.
At least for the movie, she does.
No, well, that's the thing. Was it legitimately shaved or CGI'd out?
Oh, well, judging by the job that DC did on Henry Cavill's mustache,
it was probably real.
I'm going to say, yeah, they took a lady shtick to that.
You know that's actually become a thing with Hollywood, where there's women that don't shave their armpits and they have to CGI out the armpit hair.
Oh yeah, that's a growing thing. I don't want to say that's part of like the Me Too feminism movement, but I think that has been a little bit of a byproduct.
Like, listen, really? I would totally shave mine if it wouldn't be a pain in the ass to do so.
I've clipped my armpit hairs once.
Mm-hmm. I did it once too.
And that was some of the most painful next 2 weeks that I've ever had because it was sharp and it's such like a sensitive area.
What did you use to cut it?
Scissors.
Oh, I think I actually did the same thing, but I didn't go.
I just went like.
Did you go like real close?
Not real close. I just wanted to trim them down a little bit.
And it was it itchy the rest of the like?
It was like it was like sharp, coarse hair now because it's just been growing for whatever, I don't know, like 21 years or whatever at that point.
Is it sharp still, or did it
No, this was when I was in college.
Okay.
I was just figuring out how to properly groom myself.
Yeah.
If this was a different show, we could start the debate of aerosol deodorant versus roll-on versus gel.
Oh, yeah.
No, forget gel.
Roll-on.
Forget gel.
Yeah, no gel.
Roll-on's
no, I only use gel. I use gel exclusively.
Oh, no. See, I'm too sweaty. It'll just drip off me.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm right there with Wes.
And I've once made the mistake of using aerosol, Axe deodorant body spray as just my deodorant.
Oh.
I was at a mass event at my high school at the time.
Oh,
there's no AC.
That happens.
Well, no, I couldn't do the peace be with you thing because my armpits smelled so bad because it just had a negative, like, rank, sour reaction up there. So I couldn't reach my arm out and say peace be with you. I was going in like this, like. And then immediately as the whole mass ended, I ran to the bathroom and was like washing my pits and like trying to dry it underneath the air dryer.
We should
that's
rename
another
our
embarrassing
show
moment.
Where I had some smelly issues too when I was a kid. I can't think of a specific one like that. That sounds pretty traumatizing.
No, that one will stay with me.
But we're gonna rename the show based around all this.
Okay.
Change my body odor.
Change my body odor.
Change my deodorant.
We got to change the logo and everything.
Yeah.
Get an armpit. So for the comic book minute of the week. So last time I brought up Batman Who Laughs, I mentioned it was issue 6 of the miniseries, and I said it was the finale. I didn't realize at the time that, and I think I had read it before I brought it up, that they were extending it by one more issue. So this week is the actual finale. For real.
Okay.
I have read it. Look, when it comes, if you guys haven't read it and you were interested in it, intrigued by it, whatever, you read DC Metal, I highly recommend looking for the trade when it comes out. It will be worth your time and worth your money. Also, Batman Last Night on Earth, which is part of DC's Black Label, the second issue of that is coming out this week. That's a 3-issue miniseries. Hop on board. I don't know if you'll be able to find the first issue somewhere, but I would look for it and hop on board for the second one. Again, totally worth your time. And we didn't get to this last week, and actually this news is a couple weeks old, but I did want to bring it up.
We want to talk about it,
yes.
Yeah.
So it looks,
we make the rules here.
Exactly. So I'm sure you guys have read or at least heard of Batman and TMNT crossovers. They have a DC animated movie where I guess it's Versus. I have not watched it yet. But they're also doing a TMNT crossover with the Power Rangers.
Very nice.
Which, I mean, that's one that now looking at it, the Power Rangers have had a resurgence in the comics for sure. TMNT are always fun. Everybody loves them, especially for young kids.
They're both karate based.
Yeah. That is very true. I didn't even think of that.
Yeah.
This is a crossover as much as I'm going to read it.
Martial arts based. I don't know what
Either way. Would you say karate?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
So this is a crossover I never, ever in a million years would have thought of. I mean, Batman, same thing with TMNT. But
right.
Makes more sense.
This makes more sense than Batman does. I would be interested in them both.
Why does it make more sense to you than...
Because they both seem like hokey teams.
That's
Got
fair.
a little bit of corny, a little bit of cheesiness to it. Like Batman obviously has like a lot of depth and grit to him. And right. Yeah.
Where's Rachel?
Very emo. That's pretty good.
Thank you very much.
I
appreciate it. But yeah, going under that line of logic, it does make sense.
Yeah.
And I think that the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles are good in the IDW stuff. I don't read it a ton, but whenever I see them, when they're with Batman, it's great. And I gotta imagine Boom Studios has been doing pretty well with the Power Rangers, so I'm excited to see that.
You also get the Putties, and you got the Foot Clan. Essentially the same thing, right? Yeah. They're all just like faceless, nameless dopes.
It seems like with the Batman crossover that I think it's James Tynion the fourth. I think he does a lot of DC stuff still. I think he's written Batman in the past. So under his watch, they've been successful. Obviously, they're on their third miniseries. I don't know who they're having write the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers one. That obviously makes a huge difference. Who it ends up being the writer, the artwork that I saw. Right, I'm definitely all about it. You saw I think I
saw some photos, some stills of it. Yeah.
So I think that they, at least in that department, they'll be good because that's just. I mean, that's what gets people to come in is the artwork first.
Sure.
But what do you have for me to stay woke about this week?
Yeah,
Wes?
so we're the return of two great segments here, Nick's Comic Book Minute and Stay Woke of the Week.
Yeah, I need this.
We're in the news part. We're talking about what Netflix will do after DC pulls out all their stuff and the Friends and The Office leaves.
Yeah.
And we said what? We said a couple of those type of shows. You have the comedy specials and some other things. Their documentary work is second to none. And so this is one that I'm talking about here. Like you get a lot of good, like the Firefest one is great. You had the recent one with Bob Lazar. Is that how you pronounce his name? Lazar, not Laser, right? Which was really interesting. Area 51 kind of whistleblower. The Great Hack. I think it came out maybe middle of last week after last week's episode came out. On a Netflix documentary is also now available for streaming. So we've had this conversation a couple times before about targeted advertising and how when we have a conversation suddenly on Facebook or social media, something that we're talking about without having to search it pops up into it.
Yes.
Right. You may have gotten freaked out or swept up by that face aging app that went through pretty recently, only to find out that it was like used by the Russians to update their face mapping technology.
Oh, it was the Russians?
That was going around. The legitimacy of that, I'm not really sure, but that seemed to be the scuttlebutt surrounding it, if you will.
I will say Tim looked pretty good with what I saw in your face app modification, Tim. Got to give you credit there.
Well, I'm sure Putin loved it.
Years old, so.
Yeah. So this documentary kind of confirms our worst fears as it covers the Cambridge Analytica company, which if you've been following in the news over the last couple of years, has been tied with Facebook and the 2016 presidential election. It's a data-driven communications company. Which essentially sold data from Facebook users in order to categorize them so that they could offer clients knowledge of their audience and how to best reach them.
Okay.
So they famously worked with Trump on his presidential campaign, other political campaigns from around the globe, over dating back to Thailand in 1997, Trinidad and Tobago, all these weird, a couple of South American countries as well. They use those personality tests, find out which character or friends that you are. Oh, that sort of stuff. That's all used. It's all an algorithm to see your tendencies and who you are. So they had from the I haven't watched this yet, but I saw the preview of it. And I think when I come home tonight, I'm going to be watching it. But they claim to have 5,000 points on every American who used Facebook. So 5,000 different data points about you, me, Tim, our mother, our fathers.
5,000?
That was the claim, because there's obviously been a whole bunch of whistleblowers. As long as they use
Facebook.
Yeah, because it's
mostly
my
parents
through
don't have Facebook.
Right. Yeah, but there could be other ways around. An Alexa, Google Home. Who knows where else this information is coming from? Facebook was the big. It took the big hit of all the social media groups out there. So not only they would use that, and they didn't target every American voter equally. So according to one whistleblower. They centered around swing state residents who they thought they were persuadables, like easily, easily influenced.
That makes sense.
It also touches on the idea of fake news and pushing news and clips and content that they wanted you to see. So they were showing you things and popping up things through your Google searches, your Facebook curations, your Twitter feeds, all those algorithms that come in to pop up. It's not by time anymore. You notice on like all social media, it's by what they think you want to see.
Yeah, Facebook.
So they're
now,
essentially telling you what's going on in the world.
Yeah, Facebook now.
And not telling you.
I heard that it was going to turn into. I saw like this. I don't know if it was like a hokey Facebook thing, but it was like you're only going to see 25 feeds now from people.
Right.
That's it. You won't see anybody else's stuff. I don't know.
It's going back to MySpace, like my top friends and stuff. You had the top 6 in your friends. You might be a little too young for MySpace.
I didn't know MySpace had that. No, actually, I remember the top friends, but I didn't really have it. I will say though, I did have like when they had the banners. I had a Johan Santana banner.
Oh, of course, I was a big Johan fan.
Oh, you were?
Yeah, he's a lefty.
Oh, okay, that's a good reason. He was nasty. He had a nice change-up. But
yes,
right now, Wes, when I look at Facebook, I think there are maybe 10 people whose stuff I see fairly consistently, and outside of that, not much. And I get certain things that are targeting me. Tim's one of the people who I see a ton because I like Tim's stuff.
Right.
Well, the day I learned that it wasn't that you like it because that's just you saying you like it to Tim. There's a whole other reason behind it. I was just like, God damn it! Why can't it just be simple? You talk about those stupid games.
I don't think we can come back from it now. I think it's a tough
based on
thing.
engagement, and it's based on if you interact with that person. So that's where it picks it up. I mean, a lot of people are like, "Oh, it's listening in." I mean, I had my doubts about it listening in, and then the other day I was introduced to somebody in the conference room over here, and it was hey, this is this person from this place. Met her for the first time, and she showed up an hour later in my suggested friends on Facebook.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you even think like the voice command remotes that like Comcast has and other things like. The reason why like you can speak in a different accent or it can understand a friend who just walked into the room who wants to use it, or the difference between my fiance or myself, is because it's always listening to you to like program its AI to understand you. So if you have a mouthful of popcorn, it's like already breaking down who that is to you. So whether they're using it or not, it's like surveillance, like wiretapping and stuff, right? What's allowed by the cops. When you think about that Kraft hand job massage parlor thing, like they were staking out that place for a while, but they were only supposed to be listening to the people and recording the people who were getting sexual favors at the end. Not all the innocent people. They weren't supposed to be recording that. They were anyway. So I think that's kind of what they're.
I love technology in some ways. But goddamn, dude, I really hate it.
There's no turning back. It's like we're in a surveillance state now.
I just don't care.
Yeah, like what are they?
I'm not that interesting.
So I know that you're the one that runs our conspiracy theory stuff.
Yeah.
But I firmly believe that someday the Terminator crap will happen.
Oh yeah, I believe that.
1,000% it's going to happen. It may not happen in our lifetime, but it will. There's no doubt about it.
And so you think not talking into a voice remote will save you from that?
Tim, it's all about. It's got to start somewhere. It's got to start somewhere. So am I saying it's going to save
us? Fine, and if it does, it's inevitable.
It's going to turn into something.
With it.
So you just take it and wear it, and then our kids are going to have issues with it someday, and it's their problem.
Well, an interesting conversation I was having over the weekend with my buddies over a couple of beers was the use of automated cars now, and how that's becoming more and more thing, especially with like truck drivers. That's going to be essentially a job eradicated by humans no more, and it's going to be all machines.
Great.
But he said expect a rise in people who are like philosophy majors or philosophy majors now. What was once deemed to be kind of like a lower end, how I'm going to use this in the real world, may come into play with artificial intelligence, because now if you have these automated cars, do I go into the motorcycle on the right hand side with the guy who's not wearing a helmet? Or do I go into a car that may have a child in the back seat, but you're in a car and you're maybe a little bit more protected or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
These are the morality issues that AI is going to have to deal with. If that's going to be if they're going to be regularly on the road with other humans.
So why is philosophy from a human being going to come into play with that?
Because they have to get people who are knowledgeable in morality, ethics, philosophy to help
program
the artificial intelligence in there to make those decisions.
That's, I think, Wes?
It's like a crazy thought. That is like AI, like the Will Smith movie, and like all these like science fiction stuff that we're talking about.
RoboCop had to do that. He had to assess the situation and see if he was
exactly
whatever the collateral damage would be.
Logically, that makes sense, but I also think that the tech people don't give a damn about that stuff. They just want tech
I think
to
that
take
would
over, and so that
there's some restrictions and legalities that they have to go. They're not going to just send out these robots and then say, you guys deal with them.
You know what, though, Wes? I agree with you, but at some point, it looks like they just get too cavalier with this stuff, because these things that are happening now is ridiculous, and because it turns into, if they're so smart, how do they not see that it's going to turn from one thing into another, into another?
But the Terminator didn't come about from intelligence from the machines. The Terminator came about by the machines becoming self-aware.
Right.
So you have to just keep them from becoming self-aware.
But how did they become self-aware? They became intelligent.
It's actually impossible for them to become self-aware.
Based on what?
Because how is it going to become self-aware? It's still a program, no matter what.
It becomes self-aware because it continues to learn more and more. How does anything
No, self-aware doesn't mean that it continues to learn. Self-aware means it realizes, holy crap, I'm just a machine being programmed by a person, and now I'm going to rebel against it.
But how does it learn that, Tim? Is it just one little thing and then a switch goes off?
No,
and that's
it wouldn't. It wouldn't be able to learn that because the programming would eliminate the possibility for it to become that aware.
But look at what happened with
Westworld.
It's like trying to program a VCR to play a DVD to play a DVD. It's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen. But that's such a basic type of technology where they don't. There's no. The artificial intelligence has some level of, I don't want to say higher thinking because we're talking about a robot here, but that's kind of what it is.
What you're thinking, what we're talking about is we're talking about quantum AI, which is something that's not going to be able to happen. There's never going to be the ability for it to just continue to learn and learn and learn and learn and learn and surpass the limitations of what man can put on it.
Unless you have a rat that runs across a board at the exact right time.
Right.
And that opens up the quantum realm, and then suddenly everything goes to crap.
This is a different kind of quantum, but this is about it being able to continuously learn and expand parameters, and it won't be able to do that because it's always going to be limited by whatever somebody puts into the original program.
It's like having a restrictor plate on a car.
Yeah, who's going to be the idiot that builds an AI that doesn't have that trap door?
It's going to happen. It will friggin' happen. And I was waiting.
Victor Frankenstein.
As soon as he said quantum, I was looking at you out of the corner of my eye. Like,
I got this one, guys. I got it.
I think we'll have to do an episode where we talk a ton about conspiracy theories.
Yeah.
It's going to have to happen at some point.
Yeah, and I think it's really interesting. So, again, the documentary on Netflix is The Great Hack. Go give it a watch. I know I'm going to tonight.
Okay.
Right before I fall asleep. It's going to give me some good dreams.
You're going to fall asleep on the road home because you are like, I don't know how you're functioning right now. You're doing a great job.
I'm actually kind of impressing myself.
You didn't even drink any coffee or anything like that. I had two, so I could bury you tonight.
I had 2 coffees today.
Oh.
But yeah.
Okay, well.
It was a little earlier in the morning, though.
Still, I mean, the fact that it's lasted that long for you after what happened.
I'm moving.
I guess, yeah, exactly. You're moving. So is your mouth. So this week we're debating, like an underlying theme that's been that's been included in the course of the show.
Yeah.
Like Wes said before, I actually in general prefer the comics over the movies themselves. Okay. I guess you could throw the shows in that too. I don't know if you did that in your debate. I did not look over your notes.
Yeah, so I throw the shows in with the movies.
That's fair.
It's mostly there, but again, for my argument, I want to see the visual medium. I want to see the shows come to life, and that's more so coming to life than on the page.
And I am not arguing for the case of books. As much as I love Lord of the Rings, and there are other books like without pictures.
It's essentially the same argument, though. I would imagine, right?
I don't think it's the same. It's not the same argument for me.
Okay.
Because as much as I have a creative mind, part of my problem, and that didn't sound conceited at all, but as much as I tend to, part of the issue is sometimes was that my mind can wander, and if I don't have that visual medium in front of me, then that creates issues.
Okay.
Sometimes. So that's why I say, it's for me, it's not the same thing. For some other people, they may look at it that way. That's fine, whatever. But so yeah, do you want to? I don't know how we start this.
Yeah.
Do you want to make your opening argument?
My opening argument: why the movies are better. Okay, so first I will go with the my last point that I have down here. If it wasn't for the movies, Marvel, specifically Marvel, but I would say comic books on the whole, might be like out of business right now. Marvel might be bankrupt.
Okay.
And it's because of the...
Marvel would definitely be bankrupt.
Marvel would definitely be bankrupt.
Thank you. So, okay. So I was trying to cover my bases there with maybe. We'll go with definitely.
That's
definitely
fair.
sounds better.
Yep.
The cycle has kind of turned to the point where the comics now are adapting themselves based off the movies that have become so popular by.
Okay.
So at a time where we originally were taking the source material from the comic books, and the comic books were giving a basic foundation for these movies to come out, it's now kind of come full cycle, and they're returning the favor. So I'm not sure why comic book fans have their nose up in the air saying, well, these are ruining comic books and ruining the comic book industry. The comic books are better. I think that happens a lot. I think there's a lot of people who are comic book fans who are unhappy with the success of Marvel movies, the MCU in particular, getting all of the credit.
There have been the DC stands and then the Snyder fans too.
Right, sure,
Get
yeah.
a little nuts about it. But no, look, I mean, I think one's better than the other because one has to be better than the other. But at the same time, I still love the movies. That's ridiculous that people don't like the.
I think there's when I typed in why do comic book fans hate comic book movies, those were some of the arguments that came up. Is that they specifically hold back now comic books or new comic books being released on the X-Men or no new characters being drawn for the X-Men. They essentially put a halt on the Fantastic Four because these are properties that they don't have anymore, that they don't want to have kind of give more topics of movie information. And this is where I'm starting to lose it to Fox and to Sony.
I'm not questioning you, Wes. I'm questioning the people that are complaining because if you don't like what's out there for the X-Men stuff, you're not looking because X-Men Red was an absolute banger. I love that series. We talked
but there's
about
no new characters though, right?
You have Honey Badger, who's not. I don't know when she was introduced, but she was an awesome character.
It's a cool name.
Personally, she is another Wolverine clone, but I think she's technically a X-23 clone, so she's still related to Wolverine, but a little more of a diluted version. But she is even more powerful than the other two because as much as she has I think she only has one claw. She has the healing factor. She can't feel the pain. So she can obviously take on a lot more than the other two and be more effective in a fight. But more importantly, I'm not one that you necessarily need the new characters. And we're seeing it. They bring in new characters. DC had we talked about the Silencer a ton on here. I have plugged that character immensely. And I still love that character. But you don't that they didn't do well. That was one of the few characters that lasted for an extended period of time. I forget how many issues. Most of them stopped really early. I don't know if most of them made it to 10 issues. So yeah, you don't need the new characters. People like the old ones. They want new stories, and that's where I'm going to start my argument. As much as the money is important, no doubt about it. But I'm talking about the quality of it. And some people, you know, Tim, we were talking about before the show. Tim said time was a bit of an issue, and we will address that later. But you can take these characters down different roads. You can make it canon. You can make it not. You can say it's just, like a what if necessarily, but not call it a what if.
Sure.
Batman, we're talking about that, how I'm reading two different issues. Then there's Detective Comics. There was All-Star Batman. I don't read every single Batman thing that's out there. Some of the stuff's interconnected into DC canon, DC universe, and everything like that. And then there's other stuff where it's kind of off the beaten path. It's totally out in left field. DC Metal, I haven't seen where that's having an impact on all the DC Universe stuff right now. So you're allowed to take.
I don't think anything's really impacting the DC Universe, to be honest.
I mean, the DC, because they're technically called DC Universe now. It was Rebirth, and now it's basically evolved into that.
I see what you're saying.
No, but I can understand that.
I thought you meant like the overall MCU, DC. Yeah,
the DCEU, exactly. Yes.
The worlds
for
of
the
DC.
Sake, so for the sake of the rest of this argument, DC Universe or Rebirth, same thing.
Comics.
DCEU is movie stuff.
Right. Okay.
And then with Marvel, you can do the same thing, and you can bring in characters very easily wherever. You can bring in. We just saw a Blade versus Wolverine crossover out of nowhere, and I think it was a one-off, which sucks. That's a really cool
storyline too.
God. Yeah. So and then there's a whole thing with art too, but we'll get into the visual stuff too. I mean, look, I love the live action, seeing a superhero come to life.
Yep,
for sure. But when we talked about Into the Spider-Verse.
Yes.
It's all about how it's a comic book coming to real life. I mean, that you don't have that foundation, that new visual medium without the foundation of a comic. And you can take different chances with art, and we see with different characters where Batman in, the X-Men, the animated series, kind of the animation was, I would say, fairly similar. But then we've seen through the years where there's been evolution, different iterations of Batman, different looks. You don't run into an issue where it's like, I got Robert Pattinson and then Christian Bale and then, these guys where it's like, yeah, maybe they don't look like Batman, but they are playing Batman.
Sure.
Now it's just like you make them look like Batman, how you think Batman should look. And it's just, you have some creative freedom too with that. So I think that's something that's not an issue in the same way.
You mentioned the visuals, you mentioned the foundation. I think it's important to, represent and honor the path that was laid before you. But do you drive a Model T?
I do not. Sometimes you could argue that I do.
Do you watch television on a 6-inch black and white and have to get up to turn the channel anymore?
See, black and white, no. But, I do watch TV on my phone quite a bit, Wes. And
okay.
I think a lot of people do.
Okay. But you're also watching that at like 1080p, like a high quality, still fairly high definition for what we got here.
Absolutely true.
You're not moving antennas around anymore, right?
I've actually never had to move an
phone
antenna.
calls on your house phone or have an answering machine?
Nope. No, I have a voicemail.
You have a voicemail, but you don't have a physical
I'm just making sure I
answering
give you all the
machine.
details.
Do you watch movies on VHS?
I don't.
Do you be kind and rewind? Do you see where I'm going with this?
Yes.
There's a lot of things that are great, but they outgrow the platform of which they started on. So while these superheroes, it was so cool to imagine and kind of let your mind wander about what this would be like in real life. We essentially have that now, where the film technology, CGI, all the computer stuff, we can actually make this stuff happen and make it look fairly real. Make it feel like it's really happening.
Oh, it feels freaking real.
And as we get, for every grounded superhero like a Black Widow, which may not necessarily need that CGI and everything on there to get her story across, you have the Guardians of the Galaxy, you have Iron Man, you have Thanos, you have all these other cosmic beings that would be really tough to tell the story and a full story and really grab the full depth of each comic book, essentially, if it was just a page by page 2D experience.
Definitely.
And that's what I love about. That's what is so great about the superhero universe. And an era where it's becoming less and less likely to go out and see an event. Go see a movie as a must-see event. You don't really have like blockbuster movies anymore.
What's a blockbuster movie?
Exactly. But you do for these superhero movies. Those become those must-see events. Everything else, you're just kind of like The Lion King, like, I can wait until that comes out. It's like, it's not like you feel like you're missing out on something happening as it's happening.
But, and I know you brought up the source.
And the comic books, like, a Secret Wars comes out, and I'm not like, I'm missing out on what's happening right now. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, no, but you brought up the source material before. Yes, there have been modifications. You have Nick Fury. You make him look more like Samuel L. Jackson. You have Tony Stark. You turn him more into Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah,
I agree with
those
even
things. Star-Lord was completely adapted.
The Guardians of the Galaxy, as far as I knew, I'd never heard of them until the movies. I mean, there are some characters where it's 100% they have grown. I mean, and you look at the silver screen, you talk about X-Men, the animated series. For me, that's what brought me into it in the first place. So there is a place for those things, for sure. But you talk about Secret Wars. I was actually going to get to that. You bring up the source material and those things, how certain dynamics have changed, but these set the foundation to allow these, directors, producers, and everything like that, and the actors too. It sets the foundation for them, gives them something to work off of, so they can then turn it into their own thing. Which I'm all about that. If you do that, take your little liberties how you will, but you would have a foundation where this character, what he or she is, and then you turn it into your own where it works and then it makes more sense. And we saw that. I mean, even with Captain America, I wouldn't say, what am I saying? I can't read most Captain America stuff. If it's Captain America book, if he's in it, that's different. But if it's his thing.
That's generally how I feel about most Captain America movies anyway.
Yeah, and that's fine. But that kills me because I love Captain America on the big screen because I feel like there's something different with him. With Captain America in the books, and this is another point this is probably the most important point for me when it comes to comics, is I feel a connection with these characters. With Captain America in the movies, I do feel some level of a connection with him. Iron Man, I appreciate him. I don't necessarily feel that. But in the books, I've talked about with Red Hood, why I like him so much, why his types of stories I like. I feel like there's something about them that speaks to me a little bit, that helps me get through whatever it is that I'm going through or have gone through, gives me perspective, all that. And then there's just some kick-ass action too. But that's something else that I don't know if you ever even looked for that in the movies, but that's something that, for me, I place a premium on.
What was your favorite scene from Avengers Endgame?
It was the when Cap got the hammer.
So it wasn't when, like, say, Avengers Assemble, maybe? Was that up there? Was that high up on it? And all the heroes are kind of flying through?
It's 1, 2.
So that's high on your list, though, right?
Yeah.
What did you feel in that moment when
Euphoria.
you hear the Avengers Assemble and then you see all the different heroes kind of coming together and they're all doing their stuff and they're all kind of teaming off one another and jumping off, using one another's powers and everything. Now, when you were on, that same Infinity Gauntlet splash page where you see all the heroes on that line fighting together and kind of crossing, and it's that whole one full splash page. Do you think you got that same feeling?
I didn't read that.
But do you see what I'm saying, though? I'm not sure if you get that type of emotion as if you're actually seeing it happen instead of just imagining it.
See, but here's the thing. I do have those moments in the books. I can tell you right now, and I cannot get into details because of embargoes and things, but in one of the comics that I brought up this week that I reviewed, there were 2 moments where I was like, there was one moment where I was like, oh, damn. And there was another moment where I was like, wait a second, no way. And I was like, this can't be. And then I ended up being right. So I feel like it allows me to kind of consume it how I want to, where I can go through that gamut of emotions, where with a movie, it's like, boom, you have that instant. Now, yes, that was Euphoria. When that all happened,
it was pretty,
they're, like I said, 1-2 punch. I mean, whether it's the hammer or the other one, however you want to look at it.
Fully erect nipples.
Oh, I was full, like, Tim Allen grunting in both of those moments. In a movie theater that was silent, Wes. I still can't. I mean, I think I saw it opening weekend. If not, maybe.
Right, yeah.
We saw it relatively quick.
We did it, yeah. We turned right around, yeah.
And I mean, it wasn't full, but it was quite a few people, and I was in Fall River, and it was just like you could hear a pin
One
drop.
that it wasn't full either. That's also disappointing.
Yeah, that was a little odd, but I didn't. Well, actually,
I mean, I wouldn't hate it, but again, you would just expect it first weekend.
It was
first
like
week.
With our odd work schedules.
Yeah,
I went and saw it at like 11 in the morning on a weekday.
Oh, okay.
So
well, that explains it then,
considering it was a decent crowd, and it was still May, so school was still going on. So it was actually a pretty good crowd considering. But either way, so yeah, I understand your point. Sometimes I don't know if I ever felt euphoria or anything like that or amazement, but I do feel quite a bit of emotions when I'm watching, when I'm reading these books. It just it varies. Sometimes it's more subtle, but I would argue that in some ways it's more frequent.
But maybe it's just me. I would say a lot of people younger than me might be able to subscribe to this thought. It just feels a little desensitized. Where if I'm not seeing the action take place and unfold before me, seeing that just 2D on a couple of pieces of paper may not get the same rise out of me.
I can understand that.
Just like if I were to see a stick figure shoot another stick figure on a piece of paper, that wouldn't do it for me. But if I actually saw John Wick do that to my man Common, that gets a little bit more of a rise out of me.
See, and I think part of the other problem is too, the difference is that when I'm reading these, you're invested in the characters too, though, in the movie, so it's a little bit different. But I think that I don't know. I have a different type of investment with these characters because the other thing is this is a a month-to-month thing with all these characters where, Batman, maybe I have a couple things that I read because now he's got White Knight out or Curse of the White Knight, which is another one that's
and there's
awesome.
just so much content out there for them, yeah.
So much Batman content.
Right,
Red Hood, I got to wait once a friggin' month and I'm like losing my mind by the end of it every single time. But with Batman, it's like every other week you got something. But with them, with Batman, I mean, with Red Hood, Deathstroke, Nightwing, like I'm waiting week to week, and it's the buildup. So I think that has an effect on it, where it's an impact on me, where there's some consistency, and they're kind of part of what it is I do. They're part of not just the work.
Well, yeah, I was going to say that's your choice, though.
That's part of it.
We're just taking the average person, I would say, here in this argument.
Yeah, and that's kind of more what I meant. They're part of, not so much the work side of it. Like take the reviews out of it, because I do try and I read it and review it as just another person.
Right.
I don't have an experience writing, comics or anything like that. I'm just trying to talk to you and me about like we do with this stuff. So yeah, I mean, I think that there's just a different feel, and if you're right. The action is totally different. Mm-hmm. But I think when you have that different level, you get to know the characters a little bit on a deeper level. I think by like you would in a TV show, similar to that. Because we can agree on that. You get a little bit deeper level with them than in movies.
Absolutely. Yeah. Because it's, yeah, I agree.
I'm surprised you haven't used the TV much in your argument, too, because you can make a case for that over movies, I would say.
Are you familiar with the villain Codpiece?
No, not at all.
Tim, do you know who Codpiece is?
No.
He's a villain from Doom Patrol, which is a recent, Netflix show, I believe, right?
DC Universe.
DC Universe, okay. He turned to the bad side after a girl thought he wasn't big enough.
Really?
In the downstairs department.
Yep, yeah.
So he instead went into a rage and builds a power suit with a giant cannon attached to his groin. You guys can Google this at home. Codpiece. Okay, I'm going to give you another.
Sounds like Sex Machine.
Was he Codpiece before the attachment?
No, that's a good question. I didn't go that deep into it. Extraño. Are you familiar with Extraño?
No. The Doom Patrol?
He is from DC Millennium in the 1980s.
Okay.
He is a gay hero who gets attacked by an AIDS vampire named Hemoglobin in the 1980s.
Okay.
Shang-Chi. You guys are familiar with Shang-Chi, right? He's going to be in the 10 rings.
Movies coming out, but that's about it.
Yeah, not immensely familiar.
One of the characters' names is Fu Manchu. Okay. The Mandarin is essentially a mishmash of all Asian stereotypes. He's a genius scientist. His name is the freaking Mandarin. Mm-hmm. He is what else? He's a master martial artist. He's a master of the Asian mystic arts.
Supposedly a kick-ass villain.
Right. My point is the comics are pretty problematic. I'm not even getting to like the sex-crazed heroes and villains of the She-Hulks and the Harley Quinns and the scantily clad Starfire. Yes.
Oh, you're gonna take her name in vain.
So
right
this
in front
is an
of Tim?
opportunity. The movies present an opportunity to update and perhaps correct and perhaps rewrite these stories of people who were really racist, sexist, misogynistic. Hank Pym beat his wife and was like a known alcoholic.
Yeah.
Tony Stark, pretty much a real POS too. In fact, Stan Lee even just wrote that whole character to see if he could make a bad guy likable.
Yes, that's definitely true. But that's
of course he did.
But like you're right. That's definitely a part of the history of the comics.
That's not even getting into like the 30s and 40s with all the black sport
that's different altogether.
I know.
Yeah,
very,
pop
very
culture
different
overall
time.
was different.
But I mean, even now the comics are totally different than what they were then. Because if you talk to Tim before he read any of the Red Hood or any stuff like, I mean, Tim, before you read any Red Hood, I say Jason Todd and you think he sucks, right?
Yeah, I'm like Wussy Robin.
Exactly. Now I say Jason Todd, and what do you think?
Wussy Robin. But
and
now that I understand Red Hood better, I think of Red Hood as well.
Okay, so
but I still think Wussy Robin first.
Yeah.
Fine, you think of it first, but the point is that you think of the kick-ass character he's now become too.
Right.
Okay.
But
it's very convincing.
Part of the issue with having some of these characters that they had in the 70s and the 80s as well is that they were playing off the way that the zeitgeist was then. So to say like, okay, well, you're looking at the way somebody built this character in the 60s, 70s, and 80s as opposed to how it's portrayed on the screen now. Well, that's gonna just change anyway. The same thing can be said about any Disney character. Actually, you know what? Good example. I was just watching over the weekend some 80s movies on cable.
Yep.
I'm watching Adventures in Babysitting, and I'm thinking as I'm watching, I'm like, this movie is actually quite racist.
Oh, I saw that on Facebook. Yeah, speaking of that.
Because every scary situation that they're in is black people. Like, they're in a blues club and they're terrified because the room is full of black people.
Yeah.
And they're on a train and they're scared of the gang and there's black people and the car theft, like everything was undertones of racism. But nobody picked up on that in the 80s. When we were aware of racism and tried to avoid it, nobody picked up on, hey, wait a minute, how come all the bad guys are black?
And I understand that, and I understand you can update the comics on that, but this has become the preeminent platform for most comic book superhero entities, I would say. The movies. Movies, television, recorded film. Right?
It is now.
So now you're starting at the top, and you said, okay, well, we're going to have all these heroes in, and when you're going to have people look back and portray them and see and go back to the source material that's out there, well, it's like, well, we can't have Hank Pym, beating up Janet Van Dyne in this new Ant-Man movie.
No. But
Right?
they kept him as a dink, for sure.
Well, he was like more of a like get off my lawn type of old guy as opposed to like a really bad.
And to be fair, it was
alcoholic.
mostly Scott Lang that made him irritated. He wasn't irritated in general.
He was a good family man.
Well,
right.
no, he had issues with his daughter. I mean, but that was also because of what happened with his wife and everything like that. I mean, remember at the beginning where Hope was supposed, they were having some level of issues.
Yeah.
They had to get it back together because of Yellow
well,
Jacket.
She didn't know the full story though.
No, she didn't know the full story.
Didn't know the full story.
But when it comes to the comics, look, I respect the past. We're not here without them 100%. You said it earlier, but my brother likes reading some of the old stuff, like the 80s and things like that, and I think maybe even some sooner. I can't read that stuff personally. I'm not a big fan. I like some of it. I've read some of the Batman leading up to Jason Todd getting killed by Joker, spoiler. But when now is the stuff, that's the stuff I want to read. I read the past stuff a little bit just so I have some background if I need it. But outside of that, I want the stuff now because you don't run into those issues you're bringing up, Wes, generally speaking. If not, they make it a learning point for people. Or there's, in the artwork's just not even close. It's
also, they retcon it every couple of years anyway.
They do retcon stuff.
So it's not like you really need to. So
there's some stuff, but not. I mean, even Jason Todd with the whole Red Hood thing, there are like 3 different versions of it in a way. There's like the DC animated version, there's the Rebirth, and the New 52 too. So it's just left and right.
So one of the reasons I never got into Doctor Who is because all my friends did, and all my friends were like, oh, do you watch Doctor Who? And I'm like, no. Because here's the thing, I have to go back to the beginning of something. And I have to watch every episode and catch up. And with Doctor Who, you're looking at 40 years, 50 years now of Doctor Who, but you have to go through all that. And so I actually went back and tried to watch all the old stuff. And, some episodes are missing and all that. And so it's hard to kind of get to that point where you can go back. You don't have to do that with the comics. You can't jump into an Avengers movie. You can't watch, Endgame without having seen everything that leads up to it. I think you
can get it, but you're just not getting the full.
It's not the same experience unless you've seen everything else. With the comics, you can kind of, and Nick was referencing the fact that there's all these other comics lines and all these other titles
spin-offs and
for
stuff,
certain characters, and so what happens in the Amazing Spider-Man might be the same thing that happens in Web of Spider-Man, which I know that's probably not even a real title anymore, but it was when I was a kid.
Right? Yeah. No, I get what you're
saying.
So
you would follow your different. You would pick which title you wanted to follow, and then they started merging them all together where, you had to buy one to get the other, to get to the other, to get to the other. And when they started doing that, I think that's when it got overwhelming for people, which is now why every few years they reset, because they know they're bringing in new audiences, especially with the movies. So you've got to kind of make it more palpable for people. People don't collect like they used to either.
No,
but I also think that so you had mentioned Endgame as saying like you're not getting the full, the what you're fully meant to get by watching Endgame if you just came in and watched that movie, which I agree with. But I also think by and large the MCU does a great job of making these movies to be almost standalone as well. So it's appealing to a broad range. You may not get the 3rd, 4th layer references of on your left, that sort of thing, or whatever like small little callbacks there are. But by and large, you can understand what the main plot points and what the purpose of the movie is, and still understand the level of emotion that goes into everybody when Tony Stark dies, or whoever the case is. And you can still get that because it's acting of emotions that you're seeing portrayed. Like you can physically see it, which I think might be a little bit tougher to do in the comics.
Yeah, it's
because you don't have that full dimensional
you
range
can't
of
put
emotions.
Tone into the written word,
right?
I mean, so it was very groundbreaking to be able to present Spider-Man as being this sarcastic character, And I know originally he was kind of not as sarcastic, but he became so, especially in the 80s.
Right.
And to be able to convey that in the written and drawn form, they actually had a harder time making him giving him that tone in the movies.
Yeah.
Tobey Maguire never nailed it. And I don't even think Garfield tried
really
it.
Did.
I don't even think they tried it with him, but Tom Holland has.
I felt he was sarcastic. Garfield?
Yeah, he was just kind of like smug.
He was okay. Fine.
I got kind of more.
That's fine. No, I don't know. Smug's definitely right.
Yeah.
Nah, emo is a little bit of a reach, but smug, I definitely would agree with. But Wes, you're right. You can kind of just, and I guess now with today's society, yes, yeah, you can just drop right in and you're fine. But at the same time, a lot of people like that consistency. Everybody has shows now. I don't feel like, you had a show back. Tim's going to be able to speak to this more than I would necessarily, but you can too. I feel like maybe not 10 years ago, but 15 years ago, not everybody necessarily had multiple shows. Everybody had a show.
Right. Well, there wasn't as much out there.
Right.
Yeah.
There wasn't as much out there. But even then, was everybody a Seinfeld and Friends fan? Or were you...
Yeah, I would think so for the most part because you're sticking to NBC. That was like must-see TV, right? Wasn't that the branding? Right? One was after another on Thursdays?
Is that what it was?
I would actually say people were more multi-show people back then than they are now.
You think so?
Yep, because I think now you don't have to, now it's a matter of you can kind of pick and choose and watch when you want to watch. So you could totally be a one-show person if you wanted to. You could be a multiple-show person if you wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Back when I was younger, you were like a TV person or you weren't. Very few people said, I only watch TV Thursday nights at 9 o'clock when Seinfeld comes on.
Right.
You would watch TV all of Thursday night.
Well, I just
or
think that
you would
everybody
watch
watches...
NBC exclusively.
Yeah.
I feel like everybody's not maybe like a TV person or a streaming person in some capacity now, because I feel like everybody's either at least binging a show or they've watched and caught up on shows. I don't feel like there's that one thing. So there's that. I'm saying that comics do present that some level of consistency where you can read something over, or you can binge them too, because you have all the trades, you have graphic novels. If you want to go back and read all these things, and it gives you a different take on the characters, like I said, necessarily than you have in the movies.
That's not bad. I got two, 3 more points.
And now I'll make my closing argument.
I got 3 more points left here. Okay, so one is. This is a personal thing. I have a tough time following the dialogue in comics. Oh. Sometimes I don't always know where the boxes are leading to.
Like one will have a line to another, but it's another person speaking.
It's very confusing to me. And I'm not sure, am I supposed to read the entire bubble as it's connected? Or do I go back, forth, back, forth, back, forth? Left, right, left, right, left, right. Like, I'm not sure exactly how it goes. Or do I read all of one line and then go back over to the next guy's dialogue and read all his dialogue?
Depends on how the bubbles are formed.
Yeah, that to me kind of throws me off there.
I can understand that.
So that's my big frustrating part.
I still run into that sometimes.
Yeah, so I'm not a big fan of that. Okay. It's like, just make it like clear to me. Like, I don't know. Like, that's just it.
I think it's a fair pet peeve.
I also think this is an opportunity. You can certainly do this in comic books, but it's a great way to pass down these stories of your youth to your kids.
Okay.
And they've made it so family friendly for the most part, PG-13, very friendly of all ages, to be able to go and take your kids to these events and share these experiences of maybe the comics that you grew up with, which you can certainly do with the comic books, read them at night. But again, do I want my kid reading a She-Hulk magazine where she's, a little promiscuous?
So I understand
maybe a scantily clad.
I understand the promiscuous, but you're not talking about her physical build itself, right?
No,
because I get annoyed with that complaint.
From a lot of what I've read, that she was very sex positive.
That's fine. I'm not none of that I'm debating. I just
in my day it was more characters weren't like that, but it would be the what's the word I'm looking for? The objectification of some of these characters. So they wouldn't have her be sexy in the comic, but there would be a poster of her in just like a men's dress shirt and nothing else.
Right. Okay. Yes. Okay. And I think I can picture something like that. Yeah.
And I look, I understand the issues of objectification, but I do feel like there are times where I've seen, maybe it's just on Twitter, and I know it's naturally negative there, but people complain about how, like, female characters, no female looks like that or whatever. Well, look at the male characters. I mean, come on.
Yeah, but so you don't make them strong. You just make them with big boobs, skinny waist, long blonde hair.
Well, now they make
Also, she was green, so not a lot of women are green.
Anyone in general.
But now they make them
it's
look
like
like
a Coke
that.
body bottle.
Now they make them look like that, and they're strong too. Because you got now they can. You look at Rogue.
Right, but you would see that, and you would just think like skin tight uniform. Do you know what I mean? Like it's. I would imagine the demographic of comic book artists skews very much to white male. Especially further back in the day.
Now we've seen that ethnicity doesn't mean a thing. If you look at talk about, was it Method Man, right? And they had a whole thing on Robert Kirkman's History of Comics about how the black community, they love it too.
Well, no, I'm just saying that the artists who were drawing these cartoons skewed very much
John
to be white.
And
No, I'm sorry. I misunderstood you. I thought you meant the target audience.
No.
Okay, no. That is definitely fair, but I think now it's developed into something totally different where everybody's like it can appeal to anybody. But you had, was there 2 more points or one?
So
more
those are my 2 points. I have my one last closing argument if you want to lead off. Here.
Okay, so again, it gives you something where it's consistent. You can read it. You can wait and load up. I have a ton of trades that I'm trying to catch up on right now, and I love the fact that I'm like drowning in them right now, and I can't catch up because there's so much more for me to read. The other thing too is they're an easy commitment. I know Tim said he doesn't have time to necessarily read those things. I get it. People got to read at work a lot. I know I do too. It's with whatever job you do, you have to read a lot. But for me, I look at it as, well, this can be a quick read. It can be, sometimes they're a little bit longer, depends. But I never find that, I feel like they go by fairly quickly. It's not, some of the comics are like the ones that Tim grew up with. But a lot of them now are a lot faster. X-23, her run, it was really quick. I felt like sometimes I could read that in 5 minutes.
Yeah, you're paying $4 for 8 pages.
And I don't like that. That's too fast for me. Maybe it's better for a kid to get started on. But I feel like whenever I read Red Hood, Deathstroke, all these things, yes, there's sometimes there's a lot, but it's nothing like what it was back then. And I'm always left thinking about it more and more afterwards. And my last point in my closing argument is, you always bring up, Wes, how it's got to mean something.
Yes.
All these things mean something because of the original source material at the end of it all. It ties back all to that. If these were just random superheroes that came up in film, I don't think you'd be as invested. Even as much as Brightburn was kind of, random superheroes, they're based off the Superman stuff. They're based off the DC stuff.
Okay.
So, it doesn't mean anything.
What's your favorite Marvel movie of all time? My
favorite Marvel movie of all time is Endgame.
Number 2?
Would be probably Infinity War.
Number 3?
That one's a tough one. It's somewhere between Winter Soldier, Guardians, and...
What did you know about the Guardians of the Galaxy before that movie came out?
Nothing.
And it's in your top 3?
Yes.
Well, argument for a top 3.
You're right. Yes, you're right. Yes, absolutely. I didn't read Thor. I didn't read a ton of Cap.
Okay.
That's more of an argument towards what you talk about.
Thank you. I was hoping you would arrive to that point.
That's what he was doing.
Yes.
No. My point. No. I realize what you did, but my point, original point about it meaning something, is more an argument about what you bring up all the time. How it has to mean something. I don't need it to mean anything.
That movie means something to you, and you have no background of the source material.
Right.
You know that it exists. Right. But you didn't know that anything about the comic.
You weren't invested in it.
Right. But you still are.
No, I absolutely am. But my thing is that you don't want to give stuff I always hear, Wes, from you, what does it mean, though, to the bigger thing? Like, it's got to mean something towards like an end game, not to be cliched. It's not to me. I don't need it to mean anything. I read the comics, and sometimes with the characters, somebody pops up. It doesn't mean anything to me necessarily. So I can start something new. I'm going to read Saga. I haven't done it yet. I brought the first few issues, the first trade. It means nothing to me other than a lot of people liked it. I'm open to that stuff. So that argument doesn't work with me. For you need it to mean something.
So
you're also investing reading a 12 to 15 page comic book as opposed to Wes going out and seeing a 2.5 hour movie.
Well, I'm reading a trade, which is
but still, like the investment to get involved in something. You can close the page and say, you know what, I'm going to go trade this book to somebody else or sell it or whatever. Whereas Wes is walking into a movie and being like, well, I paid my $18 to sit in here and watch this, so now
I'm stuck.
Yeah,
but
I'm stuck with it.
But I can pick it up and get back to it when I want to. I can do it all at once.
Yeah,
whatever.
That's true.
The time commitment is a little different.
Yeah. But if I own the movie, I could say the argument the same thing.
Well, actually, if you own the movie, then that's your closing argument. We're done. That's it. It's over. I lost. Damn it!
So you can toss aside the problematic characters. All right, the scantily clad female characters, the problematic ones that
Hank Pym, you mean?
Extraño. There's another one on here that I didn't get to. His name was Hate Monger from Marvel.
Oh.
Who was a villain who stirs discord with racist rhetoric. And he is obviously a clone of Hitler.
Oh, jeez.
And he fought the Fantastic Four in Captain America.
I think I had that comic.
Yeah, did you? Yeah.
Yeah. Though,
he kind of looks like Doctor Doom. Like he kind of.
No, I
like
definitely had one where the Fantastic Four went back in time and killed Hitler.
Okay, so maybe So this was
really.
Yeah, my mom threw it away. It's worth a lot of money.
You got Codpiece turning into a villain after getting turned down by an attractive woman, and then having a very phallic power suit. Forget all of that. Forget the connection that you can build with your family and friends. Forget how the movies have rebirthed the comic books and saved the comic book industry after being on life support for however long it was.
You're right about that.
It all boils down to one question, Nick. You have to choose. If you could only watch superhero movies or only read comic books for the rest of your life, and you can't watch the movies, you can't go see Avengers Endgame, you can't do any of this stuff, you can't see your girl Gal Gadot and Wonder Woman 84, which is probably going to be a mediocre movie.
God, you're such an a-hole.
I was waiting for him to work in that shot.
Such an a-hole.
He didn't do it earlier. So.
I hate you so much.
What are you choosing?
I'm picking the books.
You're picking the books.
I'm 100%
And you're
going
to miss out on the conversations. You're going to miss out on all the action.
I mean,
yeah.
am I allowed to listen to the conversations?
No.
It's not going to make a difference.
You're not going to know. You're not going to know. You
That's
either
fine.
don't know anything
That's fine.
about the movies or you know everything about the comics or vice versa.
That's fine. I'd rather read the
you'll
comics.
take the comics.
I would absolutely take the comics. It's for
this
me.
is the same guy who watches According to Jim and doesn't care about prestige TV or anything like that.
I was waiting for that. Yeah. So I do want to clear something up. According to Jim, was when I was like 16 years old, and it was just BS background.
So I want to be clear. You would be okay with not knowing Avengers Endgame, Avengers Infinity War ever existed.
I would rather
in the visual form, like.
Okay, that was so. Now you're telling honestly, Wes. Well, here's the thing. In fairness, the movies brought me back to the comics to give them a shot again. And then I fell in love with them, and I fell in love with the DC stuff more so than I have.
Well,
Marvel.
you wouldn't be able to see any Batman movies. The Dark Knight Rises doesn't come
I'm not
available
here
to you.
I'm not here with any of it without the silver screen in the X-Men the animated series and then the Batman show.
Yeah, none of that visual. It's just comic books or any of that.
So I mean, I'm being.
So you don't get the X-Men, you don't get the Spider-Man animated series, you get none of that.
I mean, look, Wes. The thing is that the characters that I love right now, that are my favorites, they're not on the screen. They're not getting their shot. Yeah, you got Jason.
Very, very highbrow right there.
It's the truth, though. I mean, like Jason Todd. He's in Titans, but he's not Red Hood. He's not the guy that I want. Deathstroke he had like 5 seconds in what was it?
Right. Yeah. Suicide Squad.
Suicide Squad. I mean, now it looks like he's going to be in Titans. That's it. Those are the guys I love.
Okay.
So it's just I'm going to take it now.
I think you're a liar. I think you're a liar.
They brought me back to it.
I'm gonna throw out at least a little caveat here to Wes's rule. You might not be able to have any of those movies, but I'm still gonna give you those Incredible Hulk made for TV movies that you refuse to watch.
Yeah, I'm still not watching them. That's
Tim,
all I have.
do you have a stance on this debate?
Listen, I don't want to kind of.
I am actually. Yeah.
I have kind of a salient point to make on it, but I'll wait till.
I think I've closed my argument. That was it. That was my last point here.
Right. Then what I will say is that we are going to see a change in the way that people get involved in comics once these online services start to really kick in and kick up for people. Mm-hmm. So when they can start going to the Marvel Unlimited and to the DC Online and all that stuff, when they start utilizing that, I think that will change people's perceptions of comics. Because the biggest problem is I don't want to go out and spend $4 for 12 pages and then have to wait 30 days to read the next 12 pages. That's the problem that we have. It's not so much that people aren't appreciating the comics, it's that we live in an instant gratification binge watching society now. So as these services rise, people, I think, will get more back into that visual form, and it'll be a little bit more 50-50.
Wait, so you're talking about the streaming services, but not the comic book apps?
No, I'm talking about the comic book apps.
Okay, okay.
Well, like DC Universe, it comes with all the comics in it.
Right,
well,
and I think
it's like a bundled thing. Okay.
And I bet you that Marvel will do the
That's
same thing with
interesting,
Disney Plus. I would not be surprised if they work in that level of a tier for people so that they'll be able to still consume the comics. And then that will, I think, honestly, it will lead to a little bit of a resurgence of the printed comic because people are going to have the digital one and say, I have to go out and get the physical version of this to to have it.
Honestly, I'm able to read Red Hood for free. I don't have to pay a dime. I still do because I love the cover arts.
Okay.
Generally speaking.
Now, Tim.
Yeah.
If you could only watch the TV and film and cinema, or only read the comic books,
if it's going to be that decision for me, I'm going to go with the comic books.
Really?
My man.
Because only because.
Yes.
You guys are crazy.
Yes!
Only because, for one reason, comic books have been around my entire life. These movies have not, and they won't be around my entire life. But I will always be able to go back and watch
how do you know
comic
that?
books. At some point,
We're getting a new Ghostbusters movie. That's been around for the better part of your life.
Right, so I think I'm a little bit different, though, than you guys because I didn't grow up in this era of having quality comic book films.
No, you didn't.
I grew up at a time when we had really crappy Captain America and Dolph Lundgren
but they
as
still
the Punisher.
came out at a time where you were able to appreciate it.
But by that point, I already had the love of the comics.
Okay.
That was so deeply ingrained. And I lost it. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I lost my love for it because it became oversaturated in the 90s with variant covers and all these special one-shots you had. And like I was talking about, all these crossover storylines, it just got to be too much. But at the very basis of it, I will always love that medium of being able to tell the story that way, as opposed to a movie where I never really quite felt that the characters are being treated the way that they should until the MCU movies came out.
Oh, I see.
And even then, I'm
Yeah.
still not 100% sure that they're not really true to the characters per se, as much as they are true to how they think people will accept the characters. Like you said,
Right.
They're now modifying the comic book storylines to reflect the movies,
Right.
which
Yeah.
is where I have a little bit of an issue because
Well, like Hawkeye
you're trying to make it more
had a
appealing to
mask
the masses.
the whole time, right? But
Yep.
you want to show off Jeremy Renner's
Oh, of course, yeah.
handsome face.
I will say, Wes,
Although there's other guys that are just as handsome that are behind masks.
Right.
this is true. You need the older stuff is what helps set the foundation for all these movies and everything like that. I personally have no desire to read any of those. I would rather watch the movies and the shows than those. The stuff that comes out now. So basically, if it wasn't for Image Comics and Todd McFarlane, Rob Liefeld, and Jim Lee doing what they did, if it wasn't for them, I would be on your side because you could do that and you could have those movies still without those without what we have now. But what we have now, I love the stories that we have, and I think someday, hopefully, these movies and shows will get brought to light from these books, and then you will see why I fell in love with the characters.
And maybe, perhaps,
and feel the same way, and then come on to Team DC side.
Let's not go with that.
That would be a reach. So, anyways, anything else on that?
No, I think I'm spent.
Okay, all right. You want Wes? Considering the circumstances, actually, forget the circumstances. You put forth a great argument. I cannot believe you did it. I
had it. It was going for a while there. Let's get to the 3v3 so I can get home and get back in my jammy jams.
Absolutely. So a quick reminder for everybody, we are going to be talking about what next week?
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. We're not going to have any on my mind this week because you already know what's on Wes's mind.
Fried.
Yeah, exactly. So this week's 3v3 to wrap things up, we have Bishop from the X-Men. We have Blink from the X-Men universe as well. I believe she was an X-Force character originally. And then Proxima Midnight, who we're all introduced to in
Infinity War.
War. And she's obviously a Marvel character.
Unless you read the comics, of course, though. Then you were introduced to her long before that.
Exactly. Then on the other side, we have the Terminator, we have Batgirl, and we have Michelangelo as the third team. So, Wes, do you want to go first, or do you want Tim to start things off?
Let's go with Tim.
All right,
let's get Tim in here.
Do you need me to rattle off the roster again?
I have a key question regarding the Terminator.
Oh.
So this is a T-800 Terminator, T-800 model.
Okay.
right?
Yep.
No, I'm asking. So okay.
Yep.
So is this T1 Terminator or T2 Terminator? Is he the antagonist or is he the protector Terminator? Because it makes a huge difference.
Which one would you, honestly? I would say we go with his best self.
So that would be the T2 Terminator.
Okay, there you go.
I will pick that team based on that.
Okay.
Based on the fact that this is a guy that even after you melt him down, he's still going to keep doing what he needs to do to get the job done. And I think Michelangelo, by the way, is a very underappreciated fighter because he's such a goofy guy that I think people overlook his skills. Second with the nunchuck, only to Bruce Lee.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
he's pretty good on a skateboard, too.
He is.
Second maybe only to Tony Hawk.
I think that's a very fair take.
That's I mean, I don't know, because I haven't really seen Michelangelo do the tricks.
I don't know. Can he do the 900? Yeah.
He knows he can do a lot, but
and Batgirl being part of that group, I mean, she's agility, but also brains. So I think that's a very well balanced team. So I'm taking them.
Okay.
Wes, do you want to go or do you want me to go?
So I'll go here. The Terminator is he's a bit of a game changer because, like you were saying, like he's just nonstop, unrelenting, very tough to defeat. But then I had to go back and read about Blink a little bit about Bishop. It's been a while since I've really spent some time with those characters. Blink essentially has the powers of one of my favorite bad superhero movies, Jumper. Our boy Hayden Christensen, right? You can pretty much go anywhere, create portals, and then send people through them. You can even like close on them, like kind of like what we saw with Doctor Strange with the arm of
Agamotto.
No. That's the eye of Agamotto. No,
yeah.
the arm of the Hulk villain in Endgame and Infinity War. Why am I blanking? Not Corvus Black.
Oh, Corvus Glaive.
No. The big guy.
The dwarf. Is like the Black Dwarf, I think is what he's called.
No, the big guy.
Not
the Hulk, like the one like you guys don't know who I'm talking about. Anyway, he gets his arm chopped off.
Yeah,
it's not Corvus Glaive.
No,
it's not.
It's the Black Dwarf. Is that what? That's.
I don't think so.
He has a different name. I'm trying to.
But anyway,
the Black
name
comes
up, so you can close off the arm and that. So I think that becomes a very useful tool in evading the Terminator. I think you can just send him out wherever you got to go, get him out of the way almost immediately. You also have someone in Bishop who can absorb energy, kind of similar to the Terminator. He is a little bit susceptible to gunfire, a little bit of a problem, but he can take energy, cosmic energy, anything like that, and absorb it and kind of give it back out.
Cole Obsidian, I think is who you're thinking of, but he is the Black Dwarf.
Oh.
I do have another point of clarification. So you're sending the Terminator away. Is the Terminator on his own, or does he have John Connor in the future sending him back?
That's
See,
that's a strong point.
Or Kyle Reese, or any of the people from the future.
Like a regeneration of every time. No, we're going to go back here, right?
Because, like they just keep sending it. So, like he doesn't go back on his own. Somebody's sending the T-800 back.
That's a good point.
So
there's going to be a lot of T-100s on Antarctica very soon. They just keep sending them out there. And then I think Proxima Midnight is really good hand-to-hand combat. So I see that as kind of like going up against Michelangelo, evening out.
Oh, I'm not picking her team, but
that's where I'm going with.
She's definitely better than Michelangelo because in the comics she doesn't miss with that spear.
Right.
She never ever friggin' misses her target, so she is as deadly as
distance.
Distance. Yep, exactly. So she's awesome. I'm glad that you gave Blink a shout out because as much as Blink in the course of this may be number 4 in terms of the powers.
Yeah.
I think in terms of her team presence, she's...
Cyber is 3, but yeah.
Who do you have her ahead of as Proxima Midnight? And
yeah.
I absolutely would not. But she, like, her power, her team value is huge. But...
Huge.
But I think Batgirl brings the same kind of value because, in terms of strength and everything like that.
Grappling hooks?
No, in terms of her knowledge, she is right there with Batman and all the other characters. And she was Oracle. She was the guy in the chair, but she was the girl in the chair, and she was on a totally another level, and she had eyes on everything in all of Gotham, helping Batman left and right, And now when you have her as Batgirl, she can obviously fight, limited, but she's going to be able to use her superior intellect. You pair her with Terminator, I can't see her losing as much as Blink creates issues. Michelangelo, a bit of a wild card, I got to say. I mean, he's a good fighter, but
we have
if someone gives him direction, it helps.
What we do is we have Blink create a portal to a Pizza Hut.
Oh, jeez.
And Michelangelo's out the picture.
Yeah, there you go. Then it becomes a 3v2.
That's it.
And you can't, I mean, it's a numbers game by then.
Right, yeah, exactly. I'm just playing numbers at that point.
Okay. With that, we will talk to everybody next week.
Yeah, spell Quentin Tarantino.
Absolutely.